This is Mark with WKEY News, and we're doing something a little bit different today. We're interviewing key businesses that are sponsoring Keys to the City, but instead of doing the business today at the Patio Cafe, I'm going to do one of the owners because we were talking earlier, and he started telling me a story that started off with his dad, and it got very interesting from there. So, uh, he's one of the partners at the Patio Cafe right here on Flagler Avenue. And can you tell me a little bit what you told me a moment ago?
Well, my dad was a very devout man. Um, he went to school at St. Xavier's High School in New York City, and for his scholastic achievement, and I have since found out also had to do with the magazine sales. My dad got a trip to Rome, where my dad was in the audience of Pope Pius XII, and Pope Pius XII picked my dad out of a group of young men and kept him for 6 months. So, growing up with my dad, you were, you are, and there's no other excuses. You're going to be Catholic, and you're going to listen to what he has to say. But during my youth, I used to say, he's too much. He's too much. But now when I look back, thank God he was my dad. And growing up, my dad always used to say that if any of his children went to Rome, that we could meet the Pope. So none of us ever really believed it. It was five of us and two other kids that my parents took care of, and a foster child. So there was eight of us, and we used to rib my dad pretty big until it happened. And I guess my story starts when I was a child. I was born. I had a lot of operations from my face and going in and out of the hospital. When I was 1966, I caught meningitis. And instead of taking my life, meningitis took my eye. So I was blind in my right eye from age 3 until 2015. And when the story starts to develop, everything from the day I was born till now, there's a straight line that connects it. So going now to where all this really starts to happen, because of who my dad was and because of the way I was raised and taught, um, the story kind of gets connected. But in 2015, probably midsummer, I was diagnosed stage 4 melanoma. They told my best friend and my partner in life that I had a 17% chance I would live another 6 months. But right prior to me getting diagnosed, my partner was going to Rome, going to Italy, going to Europe, going all over. And he asked me what would I like? Do I want him to bring me something? So I said, we have everything. I don't need anything. But if you're going to bring me something, I'd like to have the waters of Lourdes, France. And the reason that was so important as part of my growing up is my dad was, I don't know how to say it, the altar boy when Pope Pius XII held a mass at Lourdes, France. And it was one of the most influential masses, and I heard all the stories about it and how he could look through you. But my dad was the altar boy there, so my dad was part of the history of the church, and part of what happened with Pope Pius XII. So Lourdes, France has always played a huge part of our lives. So when Troy was going to Europe, I asked him to bring me the waters of Lourdes, France. I had no idea why I wanted him, but it's just something I felt was important. So he changed his itinerary, changed everything, ended up going to Lourdes and brought me the water. I had six little tiny bottles. And right after he brought them home to me, I was giving them out to people that might want them and, keeping some for myself. And that's when I was diagnosed with cancer. So I was using the water and I was just praying for one thing, that I would not die before my parents. Like I said, we are Roman Catholics, we're Italians. my parents would never survive a death of a child. So doctors telling Troy these things, doctors telling my best friend and my business partner Neil, this isn't good. We don't see him being here 6 months. Well, I was praying with the waters of Lord's France that I wouldn't die. And time just kept going on and on and on and on. So one morning, no, sorry, this was in December of 2015, when the first thing that happened to me kind of made me wonder what was going on. I was at work, and we had this magnificent room in the back of where I worked. Now, I had 3 tubes in my neck with bags draining underneath my shirt, and I was sick as can be, but I had to work, so I was at work. And this family came in, had a little girl in a stroller, and just absolutely beautiful family. And I took them in the back to show them this room. And when we were back there, I kind of crossed the line maybe, and I asked the mother, I said, why is the child on oxygen? And she told me that her baby never fully developed, and that she had to wait till adulthood to get a lung transplant. And I said, she's such a beautiful child. So we were talking, and I asked the mother if, she believed. I said, because I carry something with me all the time, and I'd like to share that with you, if that's okay. So I reached in my pocket, and I took out the little bottle of water from Lord's France, and the mother knew exactly what it was. So she decided that, yes, we're going to do this. So I put some of the water on the baby, and we prayed around the baby. And this was December 24th of 2015. On January 3rd of 2016, a woman came into my job, and she was quite frantic and screaming my name. So I said, can I help you? And she ran up to me, and she's hugging me, and she asked me if I believed in angels. I said, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. And I was a little uncomfortable, so I kind of why are you asking me this? And the lady says to me, because I believe you're one. I said, honey, I know myself. I'm no angel. Don't say that about me. And I said, well, why? And as soon as I was stopped talking, I could see her husband coming in, pushing the little girl. And I recognized him. It was the little girl from the room. And her mother said, listen, the reason I say that, Joe, is because the last time my daughter required oxygen is the day she met you. Well, I knew it wasn't me. I believe it was the water, and I believe it was God. God cured this little girl. I was just there. I don't know. Maybe I was a messenger. I don't know. So that was the first thing that happened to us. That was miracle number 1. I had 8. So that was January 3rd. On January 5th of 2016, I was walking around my yard, and I was looking at my plants, and New Orleans had a really bad frost, and everyone was worried about their landscaping. And I was walking around drinking my coffee, rubbing my eye, and looking at my plants. Well, I was rubbing my eye like this, and I was looking at my plants. When I realized what had happened, I went inside, and I broke down crying and didn't know what to do. So I called my best friend, Neil. I said, please get here, hurry, I need you right away. Well, at this point in time, I was staged for melanoma, I was sick, no one knew what was going to happen. So Neil came to my house. He was actually grocery shopping, and he left a cart full of groceries in the middle of the grocery store and just came running to my house. And when he came into the house, he said, where do we got to go? What's wrong? I said, no, Neil, I need you to witness something. Now, Neil is a native of New Smyrna Beach. He's been my best friend for pretty close to 40 years. He knows everything about me. I said, I need you to witness something, Neil. And he said, okay, what? I said, go in the other room, put something in your hand, and don't tell me what it is. So he comes back out. He says, okay, Joe, I got something in my hand. What is this about? I said, just wait 1 minute, Neil. And I took a black T-shirt, and I crumbled it up, and I plastered it against my face. I said, Neil, open the hand. And he opened his hand, and I said, it's a brown drywall screw. And Neil says, what the blank just happened? And he ran to the other room, come back, and he's yelling at me now. And he's pointing his finger. He said, you do that again. Do it again. So I said, okay. And I took the T-shirt and I put it against my face like that. And he opened up his hand, and I said, Neil, it's a quarter, heads up. And he said, what is this? The significance of that story is, this is the eye I went blind in from meningitis. And on that day, that morning, my eyesight returned. Now, it's impossible for my eyesight to return because the meningitis, when I was 3 years old, damaged my optic nerve. This was miracle number 2. So, I called my mom, called my dad, I called Father Tuttle in Orlando, told him what was going on, and everyone was excited. And Father Tuttle told me that the first miracle, Lourdes, France, the first documented miracle, was a sculptor got his eyesight back in his right eye. I just got my eyesight back in my right eye that morning. And this was impossible. But I can see you. So that was miracle number 2. Miracle number 3, well, there was a little boy. Miracle number 3 was a couple, and they were having a hard time having children. They wanted to have children. They were having a hard time. And I said, just kind of jokingly, like teasing, I said, that's easy. I'll help you fix that. And they're like, what? I said, just do what I tell you to do. I said, plus it's a lot of fun. Just keep trying, And they got a kick out of that. Well, I had given her some of the water from Lourdes, France. And I said, put this on right before you guys have fun and just keep enjoying yourselves. Love each other. Very shortly after that, after doctors and trying, she got pregnant with a little girl. And the little girl's name was Maria Bernadette, named after St. Bernadette from Lourdes, France, because they believe that's how they got pregnant. So now life's going on. I'm not dying. I'm still here. Doctors are kind of baffled at why the cancer's not taking over, but I'm believing that it's the water. So one thing leads to another. My partner buys me a trip and tells me, get your passport. I'm like, Troy, listen, I'm dying. Take me to the little house in New Smyrna Beach. Just let me die there. I mean, come on. I'm sick. I'm not traveling. So we got in a pretty heated argument over money because at this point in time, I didn't have anything. And by the time it was over with, he said he was going to get his money back and forget about it. And I said, well, why'd you do this? And he said, I was going to take you to Rome and then off to Lourdes, France, so you could say thank you for still being here. And like an idiot, I'm like, oh, I can go there. So we ended up taking this trip. And little did I know, when I called my dad to tell my dad, hey, I'm going to go to Rome. I'm going to see the things you saw, and I'm going to go to Lourdes, France, and I'm going to see where you were. And my dad just, 80 years old, want me to write you a letter and then you can meet the Pope? So I'm like, yeah, Dad, write me a letter. Because he knows you. I was kind of teasing him. So that was January. When was that one? I remember January 5th. I should have been better prepared, but I can't remember the exact date. But May 5th, we went to Orlando, big celebration for Father Tuttle. And at this celebration, Father Tuttle pointed me out to the groups that I was a miracle from Louisiana and things that I had experienced. And he wanted people to talk to me, so that was kind of cool. And then he came around, he was giving out flyers for a pilgrimage to Rome, to Italy. So I said, well, I'd love to join him. I want to be with him. And he told me that I couldn't. So my first reaction was to be angry, because my thought was, well, the reason I can't be with you is because of me and Troy. So he came back around. He asked me, did I realize why I couldn't be with him? And I'm like, well, no, but I'm good. And I was pretty angry. I thought you were my friend. I thought you respected me. I thought you respected Troy. Our choices in life. We've went out to dinner together. I actually love this man. And he's like, Joe, you're not thinking what I'm thinking you're thinking. I said, well, I can't think of anything else, but I'm all right. Leave me alone. And he told me, he goes, Joseph, listen to me. I can't let you be in my group because your trip will be more miraculous than anything I can ever give you. Well, I'm a little confused, so I'm like, what are you talking about? And he handed me a letter. Permission granted. October 5th, 2:30 in the afternoon on 2016, I was granted a 30-minute private audience in the Apostolic Palace. And when I went to Rome stage 4 melanoma, and I came home cancer-free. And there's no doubt in my mind what happened and when it happened. So he greeted us. 3 minutes into this time period, he cleared the room, and it was just him and I for 27 minutes. And during that 27 minutes, he laid his hands on my head and prayed for my cancer. And at that moment, at that split second, I knew my cancer was gone. And I came home and I was scanned twice. And Dr. Udrayan of New Orleans and Dr. Hasney Christian of New Orleans said they would never be able to explain what they were looking at after they scanned me twice. And I told them I knew what it was. There's no doubt in my mind. I know exactly what it was and when it happened. And that was miracle number 4. So there's been 8. Miracle number 5 is when I came home from New Orleans. And so many people were interested in learning what happened to me. And I would tell my story. Because a lot of people don't believe God is still with us. And I know for a fact that He is. I don't have faith. Faith is believing in something you can't see, you can't feel, you can't touch. You can't quantify in any way, but you just have to believe, right? Well, I know. I felt it. I witnessed it. I've experienced it. There's no doubt in my mind. So when I tell people I don't have faith, it doesn't mean I don't believe. It's just I know. And so I was telling my story. And the story then, this is coming up to miracle number 5. And this woman was listening to my story, and I was trying to organize a big party for her husband's business at my restaurant. And one thing leads to another is we get into the story, and I tell her what happened to me and what I believed, and using the waters of Lourdes, France. And she left. So the very next morning, I get a phone call at my job. I was in early, and the restaurant wasn't open, and this woman. And she asked me if I could help her. I said, of course you can help me, no problem. I said, just come in. She said, well, I'm actually in the front of your restaurant now. I'm inside. Well, my doors were locked. At least I thought they were, so I didn't know how she got in the building. And I came around the corner, and I had her file and was there to help her. And I said, well, what doesn't you understand? Where can I make adjustments? And she said, it's nothing to do with work. It has to do with you. I said, it has to do with me. What is it? And she said, can you give me some of that water? My girlfriend went into the bedroom and found her son unresponsive, and they rushed him to the hospital. I believe Jacob was 3 or 4 years old. So I said, well, of course you can, of course. And I gave her the water, and off she went. So about 2 hours later, I get a text message on my phone, and it was a picture of a little boy sitting in a hospital bed, and he had like camouflage pajamas on and a teddy bear. Well, he looked good, so I was happy. So Shortly after the text message, I got a phone call, and it was this lady, and saying that his mother wanted to come in and see me. So I said, well, of course, tell her to come in. So the next day, I put some glasses of wine on the table. Me and these two ladies sat down. We started talking, and the mother wanted to thank me. And I says, it's not me. You all have to understand something. It's not me. I'm just helping along the way. It's not me. And I said, well, I'm just glad he's okay and everything else. And she says, no, Joe. She said, we really got to talk about this. And I said, okay. She said, because when my son arrived to the hospital and they took his body temperature, the doctor said that my son was without oxygen for over 3 hours. And when he was revived, there was no brain damage, no nothing. He was perfectly fine. So that was miracle number 5, and that was Jacob. And that one shook me up the most of all of them, because how do you survive for 3 hours without oxygen? How? So, I don't know. That's number 5. 6, 7, and 8 dealt with a couple that was in their late 30s, never had any children, and the husband was talking to me and said that his wife is his best friend, the best decision he ever made, and on and on and on. And he said to me, the only thing is I could never give her the gift she ever wanted. And I was like, you guys, seem to be doing well. And he says, well, if you want to talk about houses and cars, yeah. But the gift I never could give my wife was a baby. So he was supposedly the blame, or the reason they couldn't conceive. And it bothered him. Now, he had a few glasses of wine in him, so he was feeling no pain when he opened up to me. So again, I said, would you want to have a child this late in life? And he said, if it was with my wife, yeah. So I said, all right. Let me fix your problem. And he looked at me like, huh? I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with me. I said, but I want you to try something. Okay. So I gave him some of the water. And I just said, you know what? Go home, have fun, love your wife. Who cares? Just go. And it was about a month or 2 later. His wife came in. She's sitting at the bar just by herself. And I asked her if she'd like a dirty martini, which is what she drank. And she said, no, I'll just have a seltzer water with lime. So I said, oh, really? You stopped drinking? And she says, no, I have to stop drinking, Joe. I said, oh, what's wrong? She said, because I'm pregnant. And that ended up being another little girl. So these things just kept happening to me, and here we are today. I'm still on this side of the earth. Not the greatest healthy guy, but I'm here. The cancer never got me. And I just believe. I believe there's a reason I'm here. I believe there's a purpose. And there's no doubt in my mind. So I guess that's kind of it.
Well, that was great. And I thank you for taking the time and telling me the story and sharing it. And we'll get back and talk about your business at another time.
That's fine.
So, once again, thanks for taking the time. And this is Mark with WKEYnews.com signing off. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.